So a very warm welcome to this session here today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are in the world. Very pleased to welcome you to this very special virtual event organized in the context of this year's United Nations High-Level Political Forum 2023. This is a special session devoted to, in particular, to SDG 6. And we have come up with a title that we hope you like: How We Know What We Know About Water. And that's especially also thanks to our colleagues at SDSN, a very nice title that will resonate with the work we will be doing in this space. So we want to look at community and partnership-based approaches to capacity building in the water sector. And we look forward to very inspiring speeches and more so also to an exchange towards after the presentations will have taken place. So this session is organized by the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, also known as SDSN, by the Global Water Partnerships, also known as GWP, and by the International Association of Universities. The session is supported both by Uganda and by Finland, and we thank you very much for your strong support for this very important event here today. Water, as we know, is at the heart of many preoccupations moving us into the future, so we will have an opportunity to deal with some of the challenges we face today and the opportunities ahead. I pass the floor on to the partners and give the floor first to Shannon Coburn, who will introduce the work of the UN SDSN. She's a regional team lead for Asia at SDG Academy SDSN. So the floor is yours, Shannon.
Thank you, Hillage, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us today. As Hillage said, my name is Shannon Coburn, and I'm calling in from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I am the regional team lead for Asia for the SDG Academy, which is the flagship education initiative of the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, or SDSN. And on behalf of SDSN, I'm very delighted to welcome you all to this session on how we know what we know about water. At the SDG Academy, with our work on online education, our audience comes from sectors and walks of life, all sorts of sectors and walks of life, and also from all levels of familiarity with the SDGs. And personally, as someone who works with the SDGs every day, I find it really eye-opening to learn from our students how far away the SDGs can seem to people sometimes. You know, it's this big global agenda that deals with these massive topics like climate change and human rights and macroeconomics. And these are topics that can seem really daunting if you are new to the study and practice of sustainable development in all of its complexity. But I think water is relatable, and water is personal, sorry. And water is a very visible element in our daily lives. And as Hillard said, it affects health and food and transportation and energy, livelihoods, and even peace and security. Water crosses borders of geography as well as discipline. And for all these reasons, education about and for water is essential not only to the achievement of SDG 6, but to all of the SDGs. So that's why at the SDG Academy, we are proud to offer 2 online courses specifically on water. The first is called Water, Addressing the Global Crisis, which we produced in partnership with the Stockholm International Water Institute, or SIWI. And the second we're very happy to offer is Governance for Transboundary Freshwater Security, which was developed by our friends at the Global Water Partnership and is led by Dr. Yumiko Yasuda, who we'll hear from in a minute. And together, these courses have enrolled more than 16,000 learners from around the world. And this past March at the UN Water Conference, we were also proud to launch a new professional certificate in sustainable water management on our platform on edX. And I'll be happy to share all of those links in the chat in a minute. So in this way, we're really happy to contribute to the work of capacity building and knowledge exchange in the water sector, but even more excited now to learn from the diverse experiences of our panelists today in the hopes that together we can all work to build a more water-wise world. So with that, I want to thank you again for being with us today. And Hillage, I'll pass the mic back to you.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Build a more water-wise world together. That's a very nice plan for today and certainly way into the future. So I'm very pleased to pass the floor on to Johanna Gerib, who's the rector and president of the University of Manouba in Tunisia. And she's also the vice president of the International Association of Universities. A warm welcome to you, Johanna, and thank you in advance for your opening words.
Thank you, Hillage. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as said Shannon. It's a real pleasure to be here today. As in my capacity as Vice President of the International Association of Universities and lead of the Higher Education Sustainable Development Working Group in the association. So it's really a great pleasure to introduce this important webinar dealing with a very important issue for all of us, having access to water and sanitation for all. It's a big challenge for all of us. So let me begin by thanking all our partners. First of all, the United Nations Sustainable Development Solution Network and the Global Water Partnership for co-hosting with the association this important event. Partnership-based approach, as we said, is needed, and this type of collaboration with partners sharing the same values are part of the target of the SDG 6 and crucial to the IAU. Let me also take the time to warmly thank Uganda and Finland, as Hillage said, for supporting this event. Many thanks. This year, the United Nations High-Level Political Forum is taking place since last week, and these days with the ministerial segment. And SDG 6 is one of the SDGs under review this year. It is certainly important per se, but also crucial for the other SDGs, as Shannon said, such as SDG 1 for the poverty, health, gender equality, reduced inequalities, peace, and many others. Access to water is not ensured, and water scarcity is increasing in countries around the world, and also a direct consequence of climate change. We are halfway of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The global community stands at a crossroads, and we don't have much time left. In particular for SDG 6 and targets 6.1 and 6.2. Despite progress, 2.2 billion people still lack safely managing drinking water services. 3.4 billion lack safely managed sanitation services. And 1.9 billion lacked basic hygiene services in 2022. While the majority live in rural areas, the unserved population is decreasing in rural areas and stagnating or increasing in urban ones. Achieving universal coverage by 2030 will require an increase of 5 to 8 times the current rate. In this decade of action, progress is slow and time is running out. All stakeholders need to double their efforts, playing a fundamental role in the training of managers and decision makers of tomorrow. Universities are particularly called upon to assume their responsibility towards society and to lay the necessary foundation for the promotion of sustainable development in their operation and in their core missions, education, research, and contribution to community. And this is one of the priorities of the EIE. Our association brings together over 600 members from more than 120 countries for reflection and action on common priority. The association is also an associate partner of UNESCO and holds consultative status to the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. Thus, the AIU has been engaging with its members at the high-level political forum since 2019. Sustainable development is a priority for us for over 30 years now. More recently, the association has launched the Global Higher Education Sustainable Development Cluster Network in 2018, with around 70 universities today as part of a network around the SDG. Two colleagues from the network are joining later on the panel, the Western Sydney University and the University of Ghana. Thank you for this engagement. The University of Manitoba, of which I'm currently the president, will soon take the lead for the cluster on SDG. Do you hear me now?
Yes, you were about to say that you're going to take the lead on SDG 6, Johanna.
Okay, so to be effective and sustainable, any approach must be global, engage leadership at the highest level, and involve the various internal and external stakeholders of university. Capacity building, education and research, and civil society engagement are important enablers for SDG 6. Therefore, we are pleased to have a diverse group of experts on the panel today. Before concluding and handing over to the moderator who will introduce the presenter, I want to thank all of you once again for your presence at this side event. And looking forward to the presentation, I wish you great moments of exchange and mutual learning during the debate. And now, without delay, dear Hilich, the floor is yours again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to maybe stress again some of the things that you've said, and thank you so very much for introducing the International Association of Universities, one of the partners indeed of this special session. I happen to be the Secretary General to the International Association of Universities now since 2017, and very pleased to work together with Isabelle Thoman, who's in charge of much of the work on higher education and research for sustainable development. Just to put some visuals to what Johanna has just introduced, let me just take 3 minutes to just drive you through what the IAU stands for and reaffirm where we are. So maybe Isabelle, you can pull up some of the slides that we prepared, but don't worry, I'm not going to read all of those because it's much more important for you to hear from the colleagues. So maybe you can go to the next one, just just to put it again on the map. The International Association of Universities is in existence since 1950, and yet not everybody knows about it. So it's good for you to maybe one day take the time to also scroll through our website and learn a bit more on how we serve the global higher education community, and in particular our membership, some 600 member institutions and organizations from around the world. And indeed, as was stressed by Johanna, we advocate a lot to the United Nations, and in particular to UNESCO, when it comes also to defending the strong role of higher education as a key stakeholder when it comes to addressing the sustainable development issues that we face today. So we will have an opportunity to hear much more from our speakers in a minute about that. Next slide, please. We work on 4 key priority areas of work through a value-based higher education approach. And if we put up this slide, it is actually to really reaffirm the vision of the IAU to be a global voice of and for higher education. And we hope that many of the institutions around the world will feel compelled to also join this movement, because we need to be many in order to make the difference. And that's what SDSN is actually also doing, and what the Global Water Partnership is also doing, bringing the stakeholders together, emphasize the need for better partnership instead of competition, which is the trend nowadays. So we really are a think tank and a forum for development of new approaches. And we hope that this conversation here today with our partners and our esteemed speakers will allow us to think outside of the box and go the extra mile when it comes to protecting our environment through a better protection of our water resources. what we really emphasize is what you see in this circle. We need more ethics and integrity. We need equity, solidarity, and cooperation. We need this nurturing of this global responsibilities towards all the communities out there, and not to the happy few. We need an appreciation of diversity. We want to ensure that academic freedom and institutional autonomy are part of the conversations everywhere in order for a quality higher education to thrive and to allow to play its full role when it comes to addressing the challenges we face. So we really have this mission to work with peers from around the world, and we're very happy to see so many join. So the next slide, please. What we undertake is global surveys and studies, and that's where we complement also the work that SDSN is doing, and where we also hope to have further cooperation with the Global Water Partnership, for instance. And you may wish to have a look at our Global Survey 2022 report, looking at how universities engage with SD and the SDGs in particular, and what has changed over time and what remains to be done when it comes to engaging. Also the points that Shannon raised just earlier. We can go to the next one. And here, this is just one example that we put on the map again. Johanna mentioned it. We created this global higher education for sustainable development cluster of universities, which is geared or led by institutions all around the world. We really wanted to have this partnership approach, this participatory approach, this inclusivity approach. And you see the vignettes on the map of the world there where the leads are. So we've invited universities from around the world to take the lead on each and any of these different things. And as you just heard, SDG 6 is about to move from one institution to the new one, and will be led by the University La Manouba in Tunisia, which is very good news, and will allow to, again, develop subclusters around these themes, not to silo them out, but to continue to network the work that's being done around the different SDGs and connecting them together. So without further ado, what I would like to now do is see how this translates into reality when the speakers will take the floor. And I start with you, Yumiko Yasuda. You're Senior Network and Transboundary Water Cooperation Specialist at the Global Water Partnership, and lead faculty governance and transboundary freshwater security MOOC that you developed. And I see that time difference is also a challenge to you. So I hope that we are at a good time in the day for you to take the floor. And we always try through our webinars and initiatives like these to find the right time for everybody to be able to join from around the world. So Yumiko, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this introduction, and also very interesting presentation about the International Association of Universities. And it's a great pleasure to be co-organizer of this event, together with also UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and also thank you to Uganda and Finland for being supporter of this event. So as introduced, I'm from the Global Water Partnership, and in my presentation today, I will be introducing approaches to capacity building specifically for improved transboundary water governance. So what is transboundary water? It's actually bodies that in this case, we are referring to more on the context of the freshwater, but like the water body that is shared between 2 or more countries. And there are currently 310 transboundary lakes and rivers around the world, and 192 identified transboundary aquifers. And it said identified because more could be found. The things in the underground is always difficult to find. And 153 countries are sharing these transboundary water bodies. And 2.8 billion people are dependent on this water body, and that also covers 42% of the Earth's land surface. So it's a quite significant water body, but yet its management faces challenges because of the complex governance. It's not just the local water bodies. You have to look at between the countries and between the sectors and so on. So it's always a challenge. And we've been working on this topic for quite some years. And in today's presentation, I will be introducing two key capacity building initiatives that we are doing. One is together with the SDG Academy on a massive open online course on the governance of transboundary freshwater security, which Shannon has just introduced. And then the second is Pan-Africa Water Governance and International Water Law Training that actually we are collaborating with Callist from Uganda, who will be speaking later on. And then from these two trainings, I'll give you a little bit of reflection. So this massive open MOOC on the governance for transboundary freshwater security, it was launched in 2019 on the SDG Academy platform. The course covers key aspects of the governance issues that are more specific to transboundary water bodies. And you see on the right side, different content of the module spanning from the water diplomacy and negotiation to international water law, institutions, financing, and management tools for the transboundary water. This product was developed together with the GEF, IW Learn, and the GWP. The GEF IW Learn is a global program to really do a peer-to-peer learning on transboundary water projects supported by Global Environment Facility. But also we brought in over 80 professionals from various institutions around the world to give lectures and case studies. And these are very, very important because there are so many different cases that people can learn from in how you actually manage these basins. This course is originally in English, and then it was translated into French, and the CapNet has actually hosted that French version on its virtual campus. But we also have the video subtitles on our SDG Academy course in Russian, French, Chinese, Spanish, and Portuguese. We have now attracted over 3,650 participants from 163 countries. And here's a link, and then my colleague will be posting the link to sign up to the course in case you're interested in the chat. When we are actually implementing this and designing the MOOC, we learned that if you just do the MOOC and just leave it there, it will fail and people will lose interest. And then we need to engage the audience through interactiveness. So then with this, we've actually conducted 14 online interactive sessions. And these are highly interactive sessions where we actually have not only just the speakers talking, but people will be into the breakout sessions. People can engage directly with the speakers and so on. And this has been very, very popular. And each time we have over 100 participants joining to these events. And I'm also happy to say as a result that MOOC is now recognized as a key resource towards achieving SDG. It is registered as one of the SDG acceleration actions on the UN platform. And also it became part of the UN SDG Learn, one of the courses that UN SDG Learn is hosting to really advance the SDG agendas. And of course, the channel mentioned that this is part of the professional certificate course in SDG Academy on water. So now our audience, who are these audience who's been taking the course? Approximately 44% are professionals in the related industry, so the water sector people. And then we also have quite a chunk of academics. 16% are the academic staff, and then 20% are the full-time students. So we really attracted, these are really second big audience that the course has attracted. And this is a really nice surprise. So we initially developed this course to target more practitioners. I'm very happy to see all these academics also joining us. We had overwhelmingly high level of satisfaction for this course. Many people saying that course was very effective and also the platform very easy to navigate, and people would recommend this to other students. Another thing we asked in the course evaluation is whether people are interested in future interaction through the community of practice. So normally course will just stop at people taking, but then we went a little bit beyond asking, do you want to continue this interaction? And majority said yes. So based on this, we have developed an online platform of community, what is called Transboundary Water Knowledge Exchange Hub on our platform. Now we have attracted many participants here who are actually exchanging beyond the course, and also it's open to anyone who's interested in the topic. The second example I want to give you is more on an offline course. We've been doing this Pan-Africa Water Governance International Water Law Training since 2015, which is targeted to people, practitioners mainly from the whole of African continent. And they are mostly people from the basin organization, governments, and the regional economic commissions and so on. The course is run in a partnership with so many organizations contributing to this. The partnership is really the key. And the approach that we've been taking is that we originally started this as pure international water law training, but there was an interest also to look at other aspects such as negotiation. So we combined different aspects. So we combined international water law and negotiation, utilizing international water law as a case to do the simulation so people can actually experience how negotiation actually works. We also take the blended approach of learning. So we ask people to take the MOOC that we presented earlier as a pre-course before they come to this on-site training. So this has been very effective as well. We also did a hybrid first time last year, which was also a big success. We also emphasize on peer-to-peer learning. When people apply to join this course, we ask people, say, what can you share from your experience? And that would be a criteria for selecting the participant. And these cases are crucial because it's very easy to say what are the key principles of international waterway. It's not that difficult. But how do you implement, for instance, equitable regional utilization of waters? How do you implement it on the ground? That is like a $1 million question. So many different ways of doing it. So really people learn from experiences and other cases. Finally, we also have developed this community of practice based on these trainees who had shared the same experiences because they were interested in having such. So we have another community dedicated to Pan-Africa target audience. The alumni survey results show that 95% of the alumni indicated their negotiation skill has actually improved due to the training. And also when we asked whether they have applied any of the skills that they learned, 90% said yes, they have applied the skills. And then what have they applied to? And then we asked the questions. So people have used to develop the treaties, agreements on the transboundary water in the Nile Basin, Buzi-Save Basin, Volta Basin, for instance. They've also developed the transboundary institutional setup, developed strategic planning in the Limpopo Basin or in Sekum Basin and so on, to name a few. There's a lot of examples. So really, we are very overwhelmingly happy to see that our course is also, our effort is also resulting into impact on the ground, because this is very important for us to know how this impacts what happens on the ground, because ultimately we are not just doing a capacity building for the sake of it, we are doing it to really improve the situation on the ground. So finally, to reflect, effective capacity building requires a combination of multiple approaches. So we have a combination of online, offline approaches. So both are important and serves different purposes. Peer-to-peer learning is such a key. Learning from other experiences on the ground and from the peer is really important for the learners. This community of practice is actually emerges from such a peer-to-peer learning, and to also create a space for further dialogues and exchanges among the like-minded people. This can also be a potentially starting point to create a new cooperation in the future. And also there is a need for continuation of interactions for long-term learning. Some of the alumni, they want some refreshers. So we also hear such kind of things. And I would like to say that partnership is really the key. The partners really bring such a valuable resources and different perspective to this learning. So with that, thank you very much for listening.
Wonderful. This is a great start of the round of presentations. Thank you so much, Dr. Yumiko Yasuda, for this brilliant presentation, which is actually an open invitation to take the course. And I hope that many will, and that you will be able to say maybe also a bit later how to engage with these courses moving into the future, because these MOOCs are just fantastic for that, because they allow to really access high quality information through these channels. And the SDG Academy is a star in that. And the topic, transboundary freshwater security, is such an important one in this day and age, where we need better partnership, better cooperation, and also the word negotiation that you used a few times is very, very important. I cannot resist but still say that IAU is hosting a special conference this year. It's called Higher Education with Impact, and it will look at the importance of intercultural learning and dialogue. And the reason why we put it on the agenda again is that we see too many countries closing in instead of cooperating with the neighbors. And especially when it comes to water, that's not a possibility moving us into any kind of better sustainable world. And to do that better, you also need to have the appropriate intercultural competencies. And I'm sure that your project is exactly doing that, building capacity and learning how to work together differently. So thank you very much for that. I will now move to your colleague, because apparently you've been working together quite a bit. Dr. Callist Tindimugaya, who's the Commissioner for Water Resources Planning and Regulation at the Ministry of the Environment, of Water and the Environment in Uganda. And so I'm very pleased to give you the floor for 6 to 8 minutes and to also inform us from your end what's being done when it comes to capacity building in the water sector, with the example of Uganda. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting Uganda to be part of this webinar. And we'll be sharing our experiences, looking at the approaches for capacity building in the water sector in Uganda. As has already been mentioned, Uganda has been involved in many activities, and these activities are helping us to actually move our agenda to achieve sustainable development goals. Of course, also recognizing that water is key in meeting most of the SDGs. We also need now to make sure that we build capacity to be able to achieve these objectives. Now, how do we build capacity? We have actually done some assessment in Uganda, and we have noted that the students we get from our universities and colleges have undertaken specialized academic courses which don't fully prepare them to address the practical challenges on the ground. We note that there is a disconnect between theory and practice due to inadequate coordination and collaboration between the academia and the practitioners. So we note that we need to have a mechanism where we can link theory to practice so that we can get students that are coming from academic institutions to be well prepared to address the practical challenges. We also note that the people we have in the water and environment sector come from different backgrounds and also come with different levels of expertise, because the courses they do at university.
Again, yep, we cannot hear you well, Callist.
Are specialized. You getting what? Is it better now?
Better now, yes.
Yes, we note that the water sector in Uganda is getting more integrated.
No.
Yeah. So whatever we need to do, we need to look at it more of the different SDGs. So we noted that we need to change the skills, the mindset, and practices of the people, because the things are changing, and we need to do this holistically. And also now we need to look at capacity development more holistically, as opposed to the traditional focus of actually looking at just different professions. And of course, we noted that this requires us to organize tailor-made training courses, have specialized postgraduate trainings, but most importantly, have induction trainings for those who are joining us in the sector, but also have continuous capacity building. So we did establish a Water Resources Institute in 2018 to help us as a vehicle through which we can ensure that we have applied training and applied research. We have student internships, we have mentorship programs for students who are still at university and those who have joined us in a practice. So the Institute was established in 2018 to be a center where we can actually have integrated capacity building courses for those joining the sector, where we would conduct basic and applied research, implement outreach activities, and be able to develop the capacity of the professionals joining us. So we are doing this through 4 approaches: applied training, where we identify the needs and we conduct applied training courses within the institute. We do applied research so that we can address the sector challenges and also identify innovations. We also note that we need to strengthen more the dialogue so that we can learn from each other, and also outreach so that we can share the knowledge that we generate. We noted that many academicians actually publish papers, but the papers don't actually inform the common person on the ground. So we would want to work with them to ensure that we actually contribute to the developments on the ground. So we have had a number of short training courses since 2018. So far, we have trained over 3,000 professionals through about 70 short courses, and these courses are demand-driven. We have also been able to develop some training modules in collaboration with the World Bank, and these trainings are targeting national, regional, and international participants. We do them through either hybrid, physical, or online, and they are conducted through, some of them through course sharing, some of them through collaboration and partnership. And through these trainings, we have been able to collaborate with many organizations, and of course, Groundwater Partnership has been one of them, and many other organizations. So our approach to capacity building is actually through partnership and collaboration, so that we can leverage available capacities and resources. Here I present some of the examples of the short courses we have been able to run. One of them is on SDGs. We have been able to actually build capacity on SDGs, specifically on SDG 6. We have also, as Yumiko mentioned, we have been running Pan-African water governance and international water law training annually, where we have participants from the rest of Africa, but also we have those who are facilitating the trainings coming from the rest of the world. We have developed a training manual on SDG 6, so that we can actually help people to appreciate what SDGs are about and be able to move the agenda. So each of the SDG targets, we have a module. So if you are interested, for example, in drinking water, you can just go through that module. But if you're interested overall in SDGs, you can go through all the modules. But we also have a module which helps us to link SDG 6 to other SDGs so that we can know that they are integrated. But we have also been able to build capacity through a number of other ways. We have a mentorship program. We do believe that we really need to help the young people to grow. So we have a mentorship program for young and middle career women, where we are mentoring them through technical aspects and leadership. So far, we have been able to mentor 86 ladies, and we have 15 mentors. And we continue. We started it last year, and I must say it is making a difference, where we are seeing ladies who used not to speak in public now are coming out to speak. Those who used not even to know how to make presentations are doing it. We have also started a graduate training internship program, where we have now got 44 students, and under the Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene mentorship program, we have attached to different water and sanitation programs so that they can have their capacity built, and we are doing it over 1 year period. We also launched a retired professional scheme so that people who have retired after reaching their retirement age are retained. Now we have about 50 people who have retired in different areas, and we are engaging them. They are the ones who are helping us conduct the trainings. They are the ones who are helping us the mentorship and internship. We also recently established a monthly webinar series where we want to share. So we have so far done 6 webinars. We have it every last Friday of the month so that we can get people from wherever, whether outside Uganda, to be able to share. We also engage in dialogues. We have been able to hold annually what we call Uganda Water and Environment Weeks, a whole week of discussions, a whole week of dialogues, a whole week of trainings so that we share. And so far we have held 6. And we do them annually in March. And finally, we have also launched the Applied Research Program, where we'll be issuing out to call for research grants to actually those who are interested in helping us to address these challenges. We are also in the process of establishing a water museum so that people can learn from what has happened in the sector. And also we are setting up demonstration centers. And whatever we are doing, we are basically targeting people because we know needs are changing, the demands are changing. There are people who are not going to go back to university, but they need to be able to build their capacity so that they move forward. And we want to call upon those who would want to join us. Again, we have online opportunities. We have programs that we can scale up. I want to call upon those who would want to join us so that we can move the capacity building programs forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Callist Tindimugaya. This is a very compelling example of how partnerships and cooperation can lead to actually a lot of capacity building. What I also hear in your presentation, which is really important, and other speakers will probably also touch on that, is this transdisciplinary approach to things. We cannot stick to one part of our brain. We cannot stick to one part of the science development. We cannot stay within disciplinary boundaries. We really have to connect the dots between the different sectors. And you said it very, very strongly in the beginning as well. The SDG 6 is linked to almost everything. And it is essential to see this dynamic of cross-fertilization of work being done to address actually the challenges in many of the different SDGs. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Basant Maheshwari, who is the Distinguished Professor for Water, Environment and Sustainability at Western Sydney University in Australia. And so, Dr. Maheshwari, the floor is yours. Also, if we can stay and stick to 8 minutes, then we also have time to reflect on each other's presentations towards the end. You're muted. Maybe you want to unmute. Thank you.
Hello to everyone. I'm from Western Sydney University. And I would like to share some of the experiences about the work we have done in India on participatory groundwater monitoring at the village level. So the groundwater is a very important resource, especially now the climate is changing and more extremes of weather. Floods and droughts, and the groundwater can be a very important source, but there are issues, and especially the overuse of groundwater and what that leads to the water table drop from say 10 to 15 meters deep 50 years ago to some places 500 meters or more, and that is unsustainable. And water scarcity for agriculture, drinking, and industry needs is a big issue. So why do we have groundwater problem? This is because of the grid, limited knowledge due to being an invisible resource. We don't know where it is and how much it is. And so the lack of understanding of what we are doing with this resource. And this means it is a people-related problem. And for this, we need to build the capacity of people. That's the important part. So this project called MARVI, which stands for Managing Aquifer Recharge and Sustaining Groundwater Use Through Village Level Intervention. And there are 3 key activities in this project: participatory data collection, sharing information, and building understanding. And then engaging with policymakers, government agencies, groundwater users, and other stakeholders. And this project started in 2011 in India, and 9 organizations were involved, with Western Sydney University as the lead organization. And we had 30 researchers from different disciplines. What Ilgi mentioned about the transdisciplinary approach, that's what we did. And there were 35 farmer researchers along with the traditional researchers. And this project worked in Rajasthan and Gujarat in 2 watersheds, area about 5,000 hectares each watershed. And the MARVI approach, what we did, so groundwater is a very complex resource because it's underground and invisible, and it flows according to geology of the area, and you can't control who is using how much. So there are three elements: the science of groundwater, the community, and the government, which involves policy, regulation, and governance. And what MARVI project did is to bring these three elements together. And so the key actors in MARVI were researchers like us, some of us, and then there were the community people. We call them Bujal Jankars, or groundwater informed volunteers, or BJs. And we engaged with the schools and village communities and the village council, state and central government agencies. And what we did with these Bujal Jankars or BJs, they are engaged local volunteers, and we had 25 in one watershed and 10 in another watershed. And these are the people who left school long time ago, and they are farmers. And so we ran a training on basic hydrogeologic concepts, mapping, water table measurements, water quality measurements. And this training lasted quite a few months, on and off. And they became a local champions and interface between the research team and community. And they felt very empowered and valued to work alongside with the researchers. So what really we did in the MARVI project, we trained these BJs and worked with them on ongoing basis. So not just a one-off training, but really worked on week by week for that long. Even still, we are working with them. And they collected groundwater data, groundwater depth, rainfall, water quality, check dam water level, also helped in socioeconomic data collection, and we worked with local schools and community groups, because they are the important part of all this. And we worked with the village panchayat or gram panchayat, state government agencies, and we developed some tools like MyWell app, for example, to collect the various water data. And then we built the capacity of the people. And at the same time, we kept connecting with the policymakers in the government agencies at the state and national levels. So this is one of the Bujal Jankar. His name is Hariram, and very simple instrument. So this is a measuring tape and a float. That's all we had. So it worked perfectly, no problem. And these are the people who monitored groundwater level on weekly basis, and they have been doing for last 11 years. And we also had groundwater sensors installed initially in case we didn't get good data, but the volunteers did an excellent job and very reliable. And they also measured rainfall. We had lots of trainings, capacity building activities, and we had a weather station in the watershed. So just to get data also to complement what the farmers are collecting. And the farmers had training in all sorts of things in the mapping, land use mappings. They had surface geology, water resource map, all these things. We worked with them, and they really felt that now they really know what is happening around their village. And these are some of the pictures of farmers in the training, in the classroom, in the field. And so very practical training. And they measured the water levels in, for example, in one of the check dams, which helps in recharging groundwater, local groundwater. And we had lots of meetings and training with these people, working with them. And we developed this MyWell. We realized that they're collecting a lot of data, and we need to really make the data available to anybody, anywhere. And so really make this invisible resource visible through the measurements. This is one of the farmers using MyWell app. And what happened was through this data collection, the farmer were able to see how their groundwater was changing from during the year. And that really opened up their eyes. Okay, this is what is happening. This is what we need to do. And first time they realized they got data about their water levels recorded, the rainfall, the water quality, and they started talking. So the key messages from these presentations are, for managing and sustaining groundwater, we need information on 4 aspects: groundwater level, rainfall, water quality, and check-dam water level. And if we have the above information, we can understand what is happening in terms of groundwater use and recharge. And it is important to remember that we are solving the problem that was created by people. And any good solution need to include their capacity building to understand and tackle their water problem. And that's how we can achieve the sustainable development goals. And any use of technology should work with people, not remove them from the scene and alienate them. And also technologies can be used for training and capacity building. So we realize that nowadays with the smartphone available and all the internet available, e-learning through short videos, online platform can be very valuable tool to build the capacity and really make some change on the ground. And there are a number of publications, and there's a website of MARWI, www.marwi.org.in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Basant Maheshwari. This was, again, a very good presentation with lots of information for further exploration. I liked your introduction where you started with this people-related problem that was generated by greed, limited knowledge, and lack of understanding, where your presentation is excellently constructed around how data-driven knowledge sharing can make the difference moving us into the future. It's I very much like this Bujal Jankar's approach to things, where you really foster also an intergenerational discussion among people. And that's where I think the future will lay. We need lifelong learning opportunities. We need to bring people back to seeing the value of education, of information, of sharing, of understanding, and really fostering, actually, to repeat myself, a better understanding of the state of play, and that it is not too late to change things. Because if we don't instill hope, people will think, it's too late, why should we bother? But there is hope to be instilled, and we need to work towards that as well, so that people feel compelled to actually do something today before it is too late. So thank you for that great presentation, and a very nice segue into the next presentation, where I'm pleased to give the floor to Anina Takala, who is the university instructor of the Faculty of Engineering and Natural Sciences at Tampere University in Finland. And I'm confident that there will be some correspondence and echoing of the presentations that we've had so far. So Anina, thank you for your, in advance for your presentation, but also for Finland to support the work that we're doing here in the context of this particular session. So Anina, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. And have to say I'm really humbled and honored to be among such experts speaking here. And I'm not perhaps quite such an expert, but I'll do my best to give some views from Finland. And I'll be sort of talking from 3 different points of views. So one is that from the university perspective, where I'm working as a teacher. So I'm teaching the future water engineers. So looking at particularly from the point of view of higher education and universities, but then also this sort of a public management perspective, as half of my time I spent working at the Center for Economic Development, Transport and the Environment of North Ostrobothnia, where I'm coordinating project that is related to competence development in water sector. So we're looking at the professionals who are already working at the water sector, what kind of life learning goals they need, what kind of continuing education we would need. And then the third perspective comes from the Water Association Finland. So I'm currently the president of Water Association Finland, and I've been working for last maybe 10 years in different NGOs like young water professionals internationally and also here in Finland. And there also I've been trying to focus on seeing how we could develop our competencies so that we could reach the SDGs. So that's been kind of at the heart of everything I do. So I think my presentation might be a bit different from the previous ones, maybe a bit more on a general level, but hopefully still some food for thought for everyone. So let's see. Yeah, I thought I'd start with the Finnish sort of official strategy. So this Finnish Water Way is the international water strategy of Finland that was published in 2018. There it said that we all work together as society from the grassroots level to the national level towards sustainable water management, and that long-term capacity building and good governance accompanied by cooperation between the public and private sectors and the active participation of the civil society and local stakeholders alike is at the heart of achieving the Finnish Water Way. And for those of you who don't know much about Finland, I could say that we are in a very good position regarding, for instance, SDG 6. So pretty much everyone in Finland has access to safe water and safe sanitation. Our water bodies are in quite good condition all around the country. We are blessed with abundance of water, so we don't really have to be that considerate about our water use. And I think it's sort of a combination of our very sort of favorable conditions here in Finland, but also through this long-term determined work that has been done, particularly in relevance to water governance issues, that we've really developed legislation, we've developed those practices, policies to take sustainability into account when thinking about water resources. And this sort of collaborative approach, which is at heart of the Finnish Water Way, it's also very essential when we think about the developing of water education. So we have a quite close collaboration between the educational institutions, the water utilities, so the utilities providing water and taking care of wastewater, businesses, government bodies, NGOs. And this goes from primary and secondary education all the way to the higher education and to lifelong learning as well. I've gotten some sort of small examples here. So for instance, from primary and secondary education, good practices that we have is that the school kids go to the water utilities to familiarize themselves with how the water treatment works, what's happening at the utilities. But then particularly this Yrityskylä learning environment, it's not just limited to how the utilities work, how the technology there works, but in this Yrityskylä, the students get to actually run the water utility. So they need to understand also the management issues related to water services. And that I think it's really sort of interesting and intriguing, and it shows them much wider picture of what's going on related to water services. Maybe from the higher education, we just had a workshop in May with educational institutions and water utilities and private businesses working in water sector, where we tried to distinguish the most essential learning goals that are related to water sector. And then also we discussed how to advance collaboration in the sector. And well, pretty much the practices that were seen to be the best ones were having guest lectures from the utilities and companies to the universities, and then also that utilities and companies would provide these project works and also thesis positions. So particularly in the engineering field, we usually the theses are done for a company or customer. And these are usually then in the water sector, these are water utilities and such, so that the students are solving real life problems in their thesis. The real life problem is kind of combined to the academic approach. And then the lifelong learning, that's, I think, something that is really crucial. I think I might go to the next slide. So if I look at the third point, so how to ensure the transfer of tacit knowledge and experience, because in Finland, the age structure or the demographics is such that the baby boomers are going to retire soon, and there's a lot of experienced water experts retiring also. So how can we transfer all their tacit knowledge and experience to the newcomers? And that's something for the lifelong learning part. But then also, how can we transfer the sector or transform the sector? How do we get some new incitements to the sector? That's a big challenge. And just in basically this, how to find competent workforce in the future, I think that's our number one challenge in Finnish water sector. So how to get young people invested and interested in water sector, how to get people to also stay at the water sector. Then if I look at it from the point of view of universities or the educational institutions, for us, it's quite essential to distinguish what are the most important things that we need to teach. What are the essential things that we can actually ensure the sustainability of the water services? Then in practice, we have a very good situation with education. We have plenty of water education available, but the vocational training, that level is the problem. There we have a lack of education at the moment. But then I think one big problem in Finland is that as said, we have a lot of education, also a lot of education related to water, but actually to achieve sustainability, I think we need quite a big transition of the society, and that also means that we need to transform our education. So there is a big risk that we're too happy with our current situation and we just want to stick to the good old ways, so to say. But then I think I've already pretty much used my time, but some sort of concluding remarks or Finnish solutions. So what educational institutions, like for instance, Tampere University has done is to create these competence profiles. So to really showcase and illustrate to the students the study paths and career opportunities in the water sector. This is to get students really interested in water and want to apply for jobs in the water sector. NGOs, I think, are really essential in giving floor to young water professionals and giving them opportunities to voice their ideas. Because one criticism why people or young people particularly don't want to work in the water sector is that water sector is perceived quite conservative and it's hard to get a sort of place in the sector. So that's something that needs to be changed. And then for the businesses, water utilities, consulting companies, I think it's really essential that they offer these thesis topics and trainee positions and summer jobs so that the students actually get to experience and sort of see what the sector is like. Yes, thank you, or kiitos in Finnish. And there's an address where you can read some more. I'll put the link to the chat.
Litos, Anina, very nice presentation as well. It's fantastic to see, and somebody said it in the chat, that we travel from Uganda to Malaysia to Australia or India to Finland, and now we will go on to our journey to Ghana. But very important to see that all these water issues, they are specific to a country, and so they're specific to Finland here. And you said with so many words that you have a very good, safe water and sanitation situation in the country, and also an abundance of water where others lack it. And that's where we see that our world is one world. We have to work together to find the solutions for the future. And I very much liked your Iristuskula approach that I pronounced badly, but this approach in schools, but in universities, and also this real challenge that you face where the people with the knowledge are disappearing, and you need a fast track into the young people to get involved and interested in these topics so that they can make a difference. And you touch on some very important points that you actually made, that we need to find new appetizers for them to come in, and it's so important everywhere around the world. So this intergenerational approach that was particularly emphasized also in the Indian cases is important everywhere around the world. So thank you for that presentation. Now we travel on all the way to Ghana, and I'm very pleased to give the floor to Dr. Robert Montu, who's the Senior Research Fellow at the Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies at the University of Ghana. And Bob, can I really ask you to stick to 7 minutes so that we have a bit of time for you as colleagues to actually react to each other's presentation and maybe take 1 or 2 questions. So the floor is yours.
Sure, thank you very much. And yes, I will try to go by the timing. Thank you, everybody, and hello to my fellow panelists and also participants. Welcome to Ghana, and then welcome to Africa again. So my name is Robert, and I like to go by Bob. I'm from the University of Ghana with the Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies, where my interest is in, I look at innovative transitional learning for climate change and sustainable development. And I also work at the intersections of water resources and sanitation. So yes, what I wanted to talk about today is just to remind ourselves of the fact that climate change is a reality, and it has significant impacts on water resources. Climate change manifests mainly in water, either the lack of it or the excess of it. There is also a significant body of evidence that is pointing to the fact that climate change is actually impacting water resources everywhere, both global and local. Ghana and Africa bearing the brunt, we have verifiable evidences in almost all communities. And water, sanitation, and hygiene have suffered and continue to suffer as a result of changing climatic conditions. Sorry, let me go back to the slide. So basically, I want to talk about the fact that the water crisis is actually emerged as one of the topmost crises the world is facing. 2 billion people lack access to uncontaminated water, we're told, and 771 million lack basic sanitation services, primarily in sub-Saharan Africa. And this is also the situation in developed countries where issues of water and water quality remains a threat and risk to sustainable development processes. The reality remains that most of the SDGs are water connected and cannot be achieved if we don't work on the reality of water. The stakes are indeed high, as we already know. The reports are painting gloomy assessments of how the world is lagging behind the achievement of SDG 6. The recent SDG synthesis report on water and sanitation sort of charges the world to move faster and work harder because we are running late. The emphasis on climate change, that it is hitting hard, creating problems and creating more problems. There is also the fact that much as we are pursuing SDG 6, the silo thinking is impeding progress. There is no enough or sufficient knowledge, data as knowledge, and not enough capacity and not enough coherence. We are heading in the wrong direction, the report says, and ultimately, these threaten sustainable development processes everywhere. The challenges that these reports have identified are playing out in Ghana and across Africa, and in many different ways. Education and learning partnerships are necessary, they are critical, and they are needed at this time. The University of Ghana, where I work, we have been at the forefront of research, knowledge development, and capacity building in the WASH, climate and sustainable development sectors through our creation of specialized programs in specialized centers, one of which is where I work, the Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies. We also have the Institute of Environment and Sanitation Studies, which focuses mainly on issues of sanitation. We work through research. I am a researcher and I teach. We work basically through the building development of partnerships for co-creation of knowledge and co-development of knowledge. And we use innovative programs and projects to disseminate our knowledge, all in the view to build capacity. Some of our partnerships are with WaterAid Ghana, Ministry of Environment, and the Environmental Protection Agency, and many others. What we do is we engage in research, and one of the most significant research works that we have done in recent times, and when I say recent times, in the last 5 months, was WaterAid Ghana. They came into partnership with us and then commissioned us to work in the northern part of Ghana, which is very dry naturally, and are facing severe water crisis because of climate changes. We conducted different studies across different communities and came to the conclusion that the climate is changing and people in the north, and in fact, Ghana generally, we are at risk. Water sanitation services was at risk, and that is one of the key interests of WaterAid Ghana. Post the studies, what we did is, WaterAid is they are very strong in advocacy. So they wanted evidence-based advocacy, evidence-based training, evidence-based policy decisions. So when we do these studies, we turn them into real tangible knowledge that could impact change. And as you see here in this, there's a picture with my photograph on it. It was one of the products of our studies, which we turned into newspaper engagement, public outreach. And this particular publication, but almost every newspaper, almost TV station in Ghana reported that. And the weeks after that, we saw a high increase in people contacting and engaging us and wanting to know more about climate change, wanting to know more about how climate change affects water and how climate change links to sanitation, the sanitation situation in Ghana. So some of these pictures you see here are part of the advocacy, education, capacity building during and after our research studies. So basically, the aspiration is to move more towards climate resilient wash services in Ghana. And we do that through our partnerships, innovative partnerships that will build capacity at different levels, research and knowledge development, and we take that seriously. The programs that we offer in our graduate programs, where currently at the Climate Change Center, we produce the most master's level students in our university. And a lot of them are out there working in relation to either climate change, sustainable development, or water resources. We train and build capacity. We train people coming in, we train policy leaders, we train policy makers, we train the non-governmental organization. In fact, one of the things that really is taken off and very nicely is the fact that youth organizations are constantly engaging with us. Young people are coming here to share ideas with us and also to help them with their capacity building. We turn our research findings into education and communication materials, as I showed in my advocacy work in the media. We strongly advocate for evidence-based decisions, evidence-based training, and evidence-based actions, climate actions or WASH actions. We emphasize also on science policy interface. We are a research institute, we're an academic institute. Our priority is when we develop knowledge or when we create knowledge, we want to see the knowledge in action. So we try to bring policy leaders. And in fact, one of the things that we have done recently is we have identified some key policy leaders within government, and then we made them adjunct lecturers on our programs. So they come here and share their experiences in policy making, and we influence their knowledge as far as policy making is concerned with our research studies. So real evidence-based policy making. And then we also ensure that we have policy effectiveness. So we send both our students, our lecturers, into some of these program areas, and then they evaluate policy implementation and to look at how those policies are achieving their expected results. We place a lot of emphasis on place-based learning. It's what we call, I personally call it critical pedagogy of place. That is, climate change, water resources are all place-specific. So when we go to certain places, we go with an open mind to look at the unique situations and what is it there that we can learn? What is it that we can change? We try to answer questions, what happened here, how it happened, and how we can solve some of these problems. And then once we identify these problems and we understand them, we work with local people. We let them lead adaptation projects. We let them work, address their own problems, and then we provide the needed support. So this is some of the things that we are doing in Ghana. We continue to do them, and we hopefully we would get to the point of achieving what we call climate resilient WASH services. So that is where I end. Hopefully I've worked within time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, we all have, you all have much more to say, but I think that all your presentations are really already triggering a lot of conversation in the chat. Many people interested in your presentation. You really emphasize this importance of partnership between very different stakeholders. And you put a lot of emphasis on science, on research, on training, but also education and communication. And I think that is also really a thread through this session, where there is a need for better education, better understanding, better opportunities for moving in the future together. I know that time is ticking very fast. We don't have very much time for discussion. We have 10 minutes total. And I would like to maybe ask first all of the participants, all of the speakers for that matter, to take just half a minute to say something about the presentation of one of your other speakers in order for a conversation to start. Because we had some questions that we shared with you in advance, but I think you responded to many of those. Why are capacity building and educational activities so crucial? I think you showed why. What are the needs of different types of capacity building? You showed why that was so important. And it's a mix and a combination of all these different types that make the difference moving us into the future. Again, with the presentations from Yumiko or Callist or Basant or Anina or Robert, and even your introduction, Shannon, show that what we need all these different approaches in order to make the difference moving into the future. This multi-stakeholder approach, and also how the SDGs are important and need to be connected. So I'm not too sure that for the discussion we necessarily need to go one question after the other, but I would like you to maybe pick up on one of the topics of the other speakers and just elaborate in half a minute. And I will start with you, Basant, because it's already so late for you, so that you have a little bit of an evening time for yourselves. So Basant, please. unmuting yourselves first. Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to say that water is not a physical resource anymore. It has got dimension of social, economic, policy, cultural, those aspects. And so we need to think more holistically and put people in the center and involve them. I think that is my takeaway message from the other presentations as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Then Yumiko, would you like to react to something in particular that triggered your interest in the presentation of one of the co-speakers?
Yes, thank you very much. Perhaps I would like to pick up on the Basant and also Anina in terms of like engagement of the locals and community, and really that's really a key aspect. I mean, like what I presented was more or less talking about more overall global target audience, the government levels and so on. But I think connecting the local is really important, and perhaps connecting different levels of governance. I think that is really the key. So I just wanted to say that. And also on this multi-stakeholder platform, there was a question about that. And I would say, well, GWP is actually a multi-stakeholder platform that exists in 70 countries around the world. We have the country water partnerships, which is actually consists of multi-stakeholder platforms. So I think this is also a great way to catalyze bringing in different partners and also different levels of people working together.
Yeah,
Thank
fantastic. You. Yeah, I'm sure that Shannon would like to react to that as well from the SDG Academy perspective and SDSN at large.
I don't know how much I can say that hasn't been said already, simply to say that I'm extremely inspired by all of the different initiatives that were shared. I think when we were thinking about how to conduct this webinar, we really did want to take the widest possible interpretation of the theme of education, training, and capacity building. And I know it was important to us to have a wide range of perspectives on that topic. And I think we covered so many different interpretations of that to our mutual benefit of really thinking about all the different ways that we can tackle this problem together. My two biggest takeaways from everyone were the importance of being interdisciplinary in our approaches to capacity building in the water sector, which is always music to my ears. I think that is just a given with anything to do with the SDGs, and we really have to start to break down these silos, both in terms of structure and institutions, but also in the way that we think about things as very siloed. And the importance of being really inclusive in our approaches. So everything that's been said about engaging the community, engaging different stakeholders at different levels, intergenerational knowledge exchange, obviously always thinking about youth inclusion, and also the importance of having training cohorts or classes that include people coming from different walks of life and different perspectives, not only so that you can disseminate that knowledge widely, but also so that you can learn from them and all of their diverse experiences and really enrich the learning space in that way. So just really, really pleased with everyone's presentations, and thank you all so much for sharing your expertise with us.
Yeah, fantastic. Callist, what would you take away from this session?
Well, thank you very much. I think what came out clearly from this session is that we can achieve a lot through inclusive partnerships. I think we have a lot to offer if we bring all our different capacities and resources together. I think we can achieve more. And I was impressed, Anina, what you mentioned, the challenges we are having. Retaining capacity is something we are having in Uganda, that many people are retiring and the capacities are being lost. And that's why we thought about creating a retired professionals scheme so that we can utilize them even when they are retired. But also, how do you interest people? You can only interest people if they know what is in there. So I was really impressed by all of the presentations, a lot to share, a lot to learn, but I think we can do a lot more through collaboration and partnerships. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. I think we will start a new network. Anina.
Well, I don't know how much I have any more to add. I think it's all been pretty much said, that the transdisciplinarity or interdisciplinarity and the different viewpoints, bring them all together, how important that is, building up the partnerships. But maybe raise something from the chat, what Janet Marsh has just written, that these presentations give me hope for the future of the world. I think that's kind of the basic, not just the presentation, but also the discussion going on in the chat. I think that really gives us hope that we can do the big changes that are necessary to achieve sustainability.
Yeah, and probably trust ourselves in that as well, because that's also that hope that Janet is speaking about. There's a lot of info in the chat as well. I hope people do also copy it and look at it carefully afterwards. And the recording of this session will be made available on different platforms, the SDSN, hopefully also maybe on the Global Water Partnership and the IU website, and on the HLPF sites, we hope as well, so that people can actually watch it again and use it. So Bob, what do you take away? Something that you've learned that was different, or something that you would like to highlight from the presentations?
Yes, I think all the presentations have been great. I think the fact, the need for stronger partnerships and inclusive actions have been highlighted by almost all of us. However, one standout message that I got was from Anina, and that was the need for appetizers. I think that was deep. The need for appetizers, new appetizers for learning and education. I think that goes beyond Finland, and it's something that we should all be working on to find what that appetizer is and then to bring it back on. So I think that is my takeaway.
Excellent. Yeah. What I very much liked, if I can say something as well, is that contrary to many other of these sessions where people say we need to change, the education is not responding, we need to do things differently in a more generic way, you show the way as to what we can do and what universities or schools or people are actually doing. And you give very concrete examples that can inspire many, many others. So I hope that from the chat as well, we will try and extract as much information as we can and work together with Yumiko and Shannon, and hopefully also with all 5 of you to generate maybe a little list of things that people can use, where they can go, where they can find more information, because not everybody will have time to listen to the brilliant presentations. And at the same time, these presentations have the value of allowing people to skip a few, move forward fast, and listen to particular spaces of discussion in these webinars. So I hope that this webinar is going to travel very far. We will make it visible through our various platforms, because the knowledge that you've shared is invaluable. And I would like to really thank you very much for your great insights, for the time you've put into preparing these presentations, for inspiring new activities, and to really get to work together moving into the future. So I would like to give the floor back to you, Shannon, and to close maybe this session, and Yumiko as well, if you wish. And not to forget that Isabel behind the scenes has played an important role also in facilitating this session to come alive. So thank you for everyone for having attended. Great discussion in the chat. That's always very important and precious. And we look forward to much more in the future. Shannon, the floor is yours.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to our wonderful speakers. Thank you to you, Hillage, for steering us through. And huge thanks to Isabel for putting this all together and making sure we all showed up on time and prepared. And of course, thank you to all of our attendees for, again, being so active and engaged. And we look forward to seeing you in future activities and in the water sector and beyond. Yeah.
Let's keep in touch and build this network in a different way. So connect, collaborate, and build these partnerships. Fantastic. Across borders, huh, Yumiko? You're absolutely right. Thank you for your time, and everyone in the chat as well. And talk to you next time. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.